Hello everyone, my name is BaxtyB and welcome back to BaxtyB F1 and welcome to today's thought experiment, because this is something that I've been thinking about really for the last couple of weeks, and it's been like a thread that I've just wanted to keep unpicking, and I think I've reached a conclusion that I'm happy with. But the question I'm asking is, who has been the best driver for Red Bull Racing? And the reason why I've started thinking about this is because over the course of the last 15 seasons, they have produced 2 world champions, both of whom have won 4 consecutive titles. I am, of course, talking about Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen. And in order to do this fairly, I'm only going to be analysing their time at Red Bull. Now, obviously, Max is still at Red Bull, and this information is correct as of the Las Vegas Grand Prix 2024. And I'm only looking at Seb's time at Red Bull. I'm not considering what came before or what came after, purely those years at Red Bull. So, without further ado, let's get into the stats. Now, Seb drove for Red Bull from 2009 to 2014. He had 113 starts and took home 38 Grand Prix victories. And he had 44 pole positions. His win percentage was 36%. Max joined Red Bull partway through 2016 and is obviously still with the team. He has had 184 starts, 62 victories, 40 pole positions, and a win percentage of 34%. So, on the stats alone, Seb did all of his in less time, with less races available to him, and he's got a better win percentage as well, even though Max has got more wins. But we have to be very careful here. There are some massive caveats that we have to acknowledge. So first of all, the timing of when they joined the team. So Seb joined in 2009, start of a new regulation set, and it was a regulation set that Red Bull got absolutely spot on. Yes, okay, look, they missed out on the double diffuser, and that is what gave Brawn a massive advantage in 2009. But by the end of 2009, that team had the momentum going forward into 2010. And it was the springboard that gave them the chance to go and win 4 consecutive doubles, drivers and constructors championships. Wasn't easy, and we'll talk about that later on, but Seb timed his arrival at Red Bull perfectly, ready for when they would start being competitive, ready to give him the machinery capable of fighting for world championships. Max, on the other hand, he joined at the height of the Mercedes dominance. It was the 3rd year of Rosberg versus Hamilton. Rosberg won the first year he was at Red Bull. Hamilton then won the next 4, and they were behind Ferrari for a large chunk of that time as well. And they were kind of slowly, incrementally building a new engine partnership with Honda. And it really took all of that time for then Max to be given the opportunity to fight for a world championship in 2021. Also, you also have to consider the fact that Seb had less races per season in comparison to Max, so Max's stats are slightly inflated, but not much more, because Max has had the opportunity to win more races per season than Seb has had. But those are the caveats that we have to consider, and that's why I'm not hinging it all on stats. I'm also going to be looking at competition that they faced during their stints at Red Bull. And I'm going to do a nice little comparison at the end, which I won't quite reveal what it is just yet. So let's have a look at the championships they won first of all, and just do a quick overview, and I will try and do this as quickly as I can. So let's start with Seb. 2010, topsy-turvy season. For most of it, 5 contenders for the championship. Going into the last race, there were 4, and he wasn't even the lead Red Bull driver going into that season finale. It was Mark Webber. Seb started on pole. Strategic foul up from Ferrari, and Red Bull left Alonso and Webber compromised. Hamilton was the 4th driver. He wasn't really a factor, let's be honest. He was a bit too far behind to really make a difference. And Seb drove off into the distance, and with that became the world champion. But he did come in clutch at the end of the season. He won 3 of the last 4 races and was on course to winning career until his engine blew up. So, he hit form at just the right time in order to win that championship. But what was the most remarkable thing is that he won that championship without having led it at any point in the championship. Incredible season. I love 2010 dearly. Then we have 2011, where Seb just blew everybody away, and I think from start to finish was probably his most impressive championship win, because he just destroyed everybody. I don't have the exact stats to hand, but it was, I mean, every single race he tuned in, he was pretty much going to be in pole. You know, there were a couple of exceptions where he got beaten by absolutely unbelievable drives, and the ones that really spring to mind are Hamilton in China and Button in Canada, and that's really about it. I mean, he was incredible in 2011. 2012 was very much another topsy-turvy season. We had 7 different winners in the first 7 races. Yes, that also included Pastor Maldonado. And the Red Bull was a bit up and down with its performance in comparison to the rest of the grid. Yes, he got a bit unlucky. He had the engine failure in Valencia in a race that he was going to win quite easily. But he hit form at just the right time, as he did in 2010. From about Singapore onwards, I would say Seb was definitely at his best, and the car that Red Bull gave him as well was at its best in that point of the season. He won 4 straight races, which really helped establish a lead in the championship, and also Alonso had a DNF in Suzuka, which proved to be fatal. But he also had 2 brilliant recovery drives in Abu Dhabi, where he had to start from the pit lane and he finished 3rd, and then in the championship decider itself in Brazil, he got spun round on the first lap, damaged car, fought his way back and finished P6, and that was enough to ultimately win the championship over Alonso. So yeah, 2012 really topsy-turvy season, but Seb came out on top. And then we have 2013. 2013 was a weird season because it started off very competitive, and then in the second half of the season, Seb just destroyed everybody, and he won 9 straight to break Michael's record for most consecutive wins. Now, I think we all thought he was probably going to win in the first half of the season, but you had Hamilton getting a win in a Mercedes for the first time, Rosberg got a couple of wins, Alonso got, I think, 1 or 2, but Seb really established himself as the title favourite for that season when he did the Multi-21 in Malaysia, and then yeah, the last 9 races was some of the most ruthless driving we've seen ever in Formula 1. It was incredible. Now let's have a look at Max's championships. So his first championship came in 2021. Incredible season between him and Lewis. They went toe-to-toe from the very first race. There was no let-up from Bahrain all the way through to Abu Dhabi. Look, we all know what happened in the last race, but I will say this, that Max deserved to win the championship as much as Lewis did, and some will say that he deserved it more. One of my major bones of contention is he didn't deserve to win it the way that he did, but he definitely proved himself worthy of being a champion over the course of that season. That is undeniable. He was incredible in 2021. Then you fast forward to 2022, where a little bit of competition early from Ferrari and Charles Leclerc, but ultimately, in the end, he and Red Bull got the regulations right, blew everybody away. He ended up with 16 wins in that season. I mean, Jesus Christ, that was some serious driving by Max. And the drive he did to win the title in Japan was top class. Then we get to 2023, when you thought it couldn't get any better. It did, when Red Bull had the most dominant season we have ever seen in Formula 1. Max had 19 wins out of 22. I mean, the level that Red Bull were at was just outstanding, and I think they would have won every race had they not screwed up in Singapore. They got their simulations wrong and left them on the back foot, but yeah, that was one race where they were pretty much perfect all the way through. It was extraordinary. Then we've got to this year, which I actually think is 2013 but flipped. So Max was very dominant early on in the season. He got 7 of the first 9 races he won. But in those first 9 races, McLaren and in particular Lando Norris began to show that they might be able to challenge, and all of a sudden the wins started to rack up for other drivers. Charles Leclerc got 3, Lewis Hamilton got 2, Carlos Sainz got 2, George Russell got a couple, Oscar Piastri got a couple. But all the while, Max was being incredibly consistent, and no one was really starting to close the gap on him. And then when you get to Brazil, you think, oh, this might be the chance for Lando Norris in particular to really put the hammer down. He won the sprint race, not convincingly, but he won the sprint race. And then in the Grand Prix itself, Max just produced another drive from the gods, and it was game over, and he won the title in the next race in Vegas. So that's the rundown of the championships as quickly as possible. If I have missed anything, please do excuse me. I'm kind of doing that potted history, as it were. So let's have a look at competition. Really, really important for me, this one. Like, competition is something I judge very, very highly, and for me this is a clear win for Seb. Let's have a look at the internal competition between the two of them, because actually in all of their championship winning seasons they had the same teammate. Seb had Mark Webber, Max had Checo Perez, and certainly the first season that they had was very competitive between Seb and Mark. Actually going into the last race of that season, remember, Mark was the lead Red Bull driver. He was second in the championship, Seb was third. And I think some people thought that Webber might actually win that championship. He definitely had opportunities to do it. And then from 2011 onwards, he really kind of established himself as the dominant force within the team. But Mark was definitely a very, very gritty driver, somebody who would never give up. Look at Silverstone 2010 as a perfect example of that. And then you compare that to Checo, who has had his moments as Max's teammate, but he's never challenged Max in the same way that Mark challenged Seb. So instantly that's a tick in Seb's box. He had a better teammate to compare himself to than Max has had. Then you look at the competition from outside, and look, Max has had Lewis as one major rival, but he's also had 2 years of just dominance. Yes, Leclerc's been there or thereabouts. Norris has established himself this year, as has Piastri, and Russell's getting there, and Carlos Sainz has been there. Whether he stays there, we don't know. But then you look at the competition that Seb had. Seb went up in 2010 against 3 world champions in Alonso, Hamilton and Button. Schumacher was also there. Rosberg was getting better all the time in that period. Raikkonen came back and was brilliant in the Lotus. And then, Checo Perez was breaking through. One of his best seasons was 2012. He was amazing in 2012. Nobody can deny how good Checo was in the Sauber that year. Daniel Ricciardo was just starting to come through. Kamui Kobayashi, a favourite driver of mine, was there. And I just feel that the 2012 grid in particular, but I think the grids that Seb had in those championship years were far more complete grids than Max has had. Now, obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean Max wouldn't win in those grids, but I just feel like the competition that he's had to face in comparison to Seb hasn't been of the same standard. And then you look at the cars they've had, and I think the RB19 was definitely the most dominant car we've ever seen. But Seb had some amazingly dominant cars. 2011 was a dominant car, 2013 was a dominant car. So, there's big similarities between them. Massive similarities between them. So we come to my final sort of test for this. And this is the one where actually I think it pretty much hinges. And it is, would one driver win the other driver's championship? So if you flip them over, if you stick Max 2010 to 13 and Seb 21 to 24, would they win each other's championships? Come with me on this little thought experiment. I love fancy booking like this. Ultimately it's pointless, but I just love doing it. So please do humour me. Let's get the easy ones out of the way. So Max wins 2011 and he wins 2013. I have no issue saying that. That immediately puts him on 2. Seb definitely wins 22, definitely wins 23. Again, I have no issue saying that. That puts him on 2, and I'm actually going to put him on 3 because I think Seb would find a way to win 2024. So that puts Seb on 3. Let's go back to Max. Does Max win 2010? Does he win 2012? 2012, definite yes. Definite yes. I think his consistency out with the point of his car being dominant, I think he would have done enough to get that championship done. 100%. Yes, he's going up against probably the best version of Fernando Alonso the world ever saw, but I still think he gets the job done. 2010, tough one. Very tough one. But again, consistency is key. Now, yes, look, Red Bull had some technical gremlins in 2010. There's no denying that. Seb had a couple of wins lost. Certainly Bahrain and Korea are the two that I'm thinking of. But I think Max's consistency, where he was, if you want to do a direct comparison, first championships 21 to 2010, I think Max's consistency would have been key here. He would have been a bit more consistent than Seb was. And I think he would have found ways to get better results. Particularly, look who he was going up against. He was going up against Webber. He was going up against Button, Alonso, and Hamilton. Yeah, that's a really difficult field to negotiate. And I just think his consistency would have been enough. And I think he probably would go into Abu Dhabi as the lead driver, not the second driver. And I think he would get the championship done. So Max, he wins all 4 of Seb's championships, 100%. We've already got Seb on 3. Does he win 2021? Really tough question, this. History kind of tells us the answer. Let's remember what Max faced in 21. He faced a 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes when they were still at the peak of their powers, realistically. And they won the Constructors' Championship that year. Don't forget that. But you have to go back to 2017 and 2018. When Lewis and Seb did fight in relatively equal machinery. Now, for argument's sake, I just want to say I think the Ferrari was marginally quicker than the Merc in 2017, and the Merc was marginally quicker in 2018. But the common denominator is that Lewis won both of those seasons. Now, yes, of course, Ferrari things up. I'm not blaming it all on Seb, though. He did have his moments, 2018 in particular. But I still think Lewis would have won both of those championships regardless of those things. And I think Lewis probably wins 21 against Seb, because I don't think Seb would have been able to challenge Lewis as intently as Max did. And that is me using history to inform my opinion of that. So I don't think Seb wins 2021. So that really leaves Seb on 3 in comparison to Max's 4. And that is where I can make my judgment, because I feel that by Max being able to win the opponent's 4 in comparison to Seb only winning 3 tells me a lot. And therefore, the best Red Bull driver ever is Max Verstappen. Now, I know some of you were saying, Baxty, why did you waste so much time doing this? Like, you've literally done a video where you have Max in your top 10 and Seb not in your top 10. But Seb at Red Bull was a very different prospect to Seb in the whole. Whereas Max right now is just on a level where I just feel we are seeing something very special. Can he make it 5 next year? I think it will be difficult, and it will be possibly the hardest one he's ever had to do. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But that is the end of this little thought experiment. Thank you for amusing me. And if you have skipped to this point just to find out who I chose, then, you know, fair enough. But please do like, comment, subscribe. The support on the last video, guys, was fantastic. Honestly, it really meant a lot to me. And I know a lot of you were criticising me in the comments, but you know what? You guys still took the opportunity to watch my video and to listen to what I had to say. And look, if you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. I have no issue with that. I love debate. Absolutely love debate. It's great. And particularly about Formula 1. I could go all day if I could. But yes, please do like, comment, subscribe, share as well if you want more people to see this. The more we get here, the better, and it will be great. And I can keep making more content about things that, you know, these little thought experiments where I just pick at threads and make wild conclusions based off my own assessment, and then you guys disagree with me in the comments. But guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay safe, and I shall speak to you all very soon.